You sit down to do one thing. Maybe it's read a book. Maybe it's to answer a message. Maybe it's just to think for 2 seconds. And somehow, 2 minutes later, you're scrolling. Not because you even want to, but because silence feels uncomfortable. We live in a world where our attention is constantly being pulled in every direction. Notifications, short videos, algorithms, content designed to keep us consuming endlessly. And after a while, it changes you. Not just your habits, your brain, your personality, even your ability to be alone with your own thoughts. And the scary part is, most people think this is normal. I noticed something about myself. I used to struggle to stay present with almost anything. I'd open my phone without thinking. I'd switch between apps constantly. I'd watch half a video while mentally preparing for the next. And even when I try to rest, my brain still feels noisy. It made me realize something. I don't think we're actually bad at focusing. I think we're adapted to a culture that rewards distraction. Because attention has become one of the most profitable things in the world. Every app is competing for it. Every platform wants more of it. And the longer you stay distracted, the more money they make. So if you feel mentally scattered all the time, it might not be because you're lazy. It might be because your brain is reacting normally to an abnormal environment. So there's a term called attention economy. And basically it means your attention is valuable. Companies study human behavior to figure out how to keep you scrolling longer, how to make content addictive, how to trigger your emotional reactions quickly. That's why everything feels faster now. Videos are shorter, music clips start instantly, apps are designed to remove every second of boredom because boredom is dangerous to platforms. The second you stop scrolling, they lose your attention. And I think a lot of us underestimate how deeply this affects us psychologically. We're consuming so much information every single day, but spending very little time actually processing it. We don't sit with our thoughts anymore. We replace them immediately. And eventually, your brain starts expecting constant stimulation. That's why silence can feel uncomfortable. I think one of the biggest signs of this shift is that people are terrified of boredom. Waiting in line, they're on the phone. Sitting alone, they're on the phone. Watching TV and also scrolling. Even relaxation has become overstimulating. And I honestly think we've forgotten that boredom used to serve a purpose. Boredom created imagination, reflection, creativity, self-awareness. Now we escape it instantly. But when you constantly avoid silence, you also avoid yourself. And over that time, the disconnect becomes emotional because if your brain is constantly consuming, when does it actually breathe? When does it think deeply? When does it reflect? When does it feel fully present? A lot of people don't even know what they want or genuinely enjoy anymore outside of stimulation. And that's not entirely an individual problem. It's cultural. Something else I've noticed is how social media changes the way people experience life itself. Sometimes it feels like we're no longer living moments. We're documenting them. Everything becomes content. Opinions become branding. Personality becomes performance. And slowly, people stop asking, what do I actually feel? And start asking, how will this be perceived? That shift changes people. It creates anxiety, pressure to always be interesting, pressure to always be productive, pressure to always be visible, and honestly, That's exhausting. I think a lot of people are mentally overwhelmed, not because they're weak, but because modern life asks our brains to process more stimulation than ever before. I don't think the answer is deleting everything and disappearing forever. But I do think we need moments where our attention belongs to us again. Moments where we aren't consuming, performing, comparing, escaping, just existing, because the more distracted we become, the harder it is to hear ourselves think. And maybe that's why so many people feel disconnected now. Not because they're lost themselves completely, but because they rarely spend enough quiet time with themselves. Sometimes healing looks like adding more and more, like creating space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to feel bored again. Because boredom isn't always empty. Sometimes it's the beginning of clarity. If you've been struggling to focus lately, I really don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people are experiencing the same thing quietly. We're living in a world designed to constantly interrupt us. So maybe the goal isn't becoming perfectly disciplined overnight. Maybe the first step is simply becoming aware of what's competing for our attention every day and asking yourself, what kind of mind am I creating with the way I live? Because your attention shapes your life, and the things that constantly consume it eventually shape who you are too.